Dear viewers, in our previous 3 episodes, we described the origin and the different stages of human child development chronologically, as well as the role of male and female gametes in the creation of a human child in the mother's womb. And in this episode, we will describe what the Quran says regarding the sex determination of a developing child, and we will justify the authenticity of the Quranic verses in the light of modern scientific knowledge. Regarding sex determination of new human child, philosophers, naturalists, and more recently scientists have debated this question for over 3,000 years. The combination of right and left with male and female gave rise to the first theory of sex determination. According to Anaxagoras, the decision depended on the father's semen, that from the right testis developed into a male child and from the left testis into a female. The Greek philosopher Parmenides believed that an embryo's position in the womb determined its sex. Those positioned on the right side develop into males, while those on the left side developed into females. This uterus side theory was very common in the 17th, 19th centuries, and this idea was based on mistaken anatomical beliefs that the womb had distinct male and female halves. From the above brief discussion, we see that human knowledge had a misconception regarding sex determination of a developing child. The Quran mentions, "O mankind, we created you from male and female." Surah Al-Hujurat, Ayah 13. Here, the Quran mentions that for the creation of a new human being, both male and female make a contribution. Although male and female gametes both contribute to the sex chromosomes, the Quran also says, "And he created the pairs male and female from a sperm drop when ejaculated." Surah An-Najm verses 45-46. From this verse, we get two very important pieces of information: factor responsible for sex determination and timing of sex determination. To find out the factor responsible for sex determination, we take 3 Quranic verses for explanation, and these are: "And he created the pairs, 2 sexes, male and female, from a sperm drop when ejaculated." Surah An-Najm verses 45-46. "Had he not been a sperm drop emitted, then he was a clinging clot. Then Allah developed and perfected his form, producing from it both sexes, male and female." Surah Al-Qiyamah, Ayah 37-39. In the above 2 verses, Nutfah relates to the words Tumna and Yumna. And to realize the meaning of these words, a brief discussion is needed. In Surah Al-Waqiyah, verse 58, the Quran mentions, "Have you considered what you ejaculate?" In this verse, the Quran emphasized thinking about the ejaculated material of a human being. Here, the word tumnun is used, which means to ejaculate. As we know, only men can ejaculate semen actively whenever they desire, but women can't do it, as the emission of the female ovum is a natural phenomenon and occurs monthly during the menstrual cycle only. Here, the word tumnun of the above first verse and the words tumna, yumna of the second and third verses have the same letter roots as ya, mim, non, and the same lemma group's word yumna. A lemma groups word forms that differ only by inflectional morphology or grammatical information, such as number, tense, etc., and do not vary in meaning. Since, in Surah Al-Waqiyah, verse 58, mentioned tumnun is the male ejaculation, and tumnun, tumna, yumna words have the same root letters and lemma groups, so tumna, yumna words also indicate male ejaculation. So, from the above brief discussion, we see the word Nutfah used in Surah An-Najm, verses 45-46, and Surah Al-Qiyamah, Ayah 37-39, definitely indicating male sperm, and this sperm is responsible for sex determination of the developing child. Most human cells are diploid, meaning they have 2 sets or 23 pairs of chromosomes. In 1905, Edmund Beecher Wilson and Nettie Maria Stevens discovered a chromosomal sex determination system demonstrating that males and females have 1 pair of sex chromosomes each. Thus, among the 23 pairs of chromosomes, 22 pairs are called autosomes, look the same in both males and females, and 1 pair is a sex chromosome. In the pair of sex chromosome, the male cell has one X and one Y chromosome, while the female cell has two X chromosomes. Primarily, sex determination occurs at fertilization and depends upon the type of sex chromosome in the sperm that fertilizes an ovum. Thus, when a man's sperm carries the X chromosome, the fetus will have XX and is therefore a female child. But when a man's sperm carries the Y chromosome, the fetus will have XY and then the fetus is a male child. So, modern science says that sex determination of the developing child depends upon the type of sex chromosome in the sperm that fertilizes the ovum. What the Quran mentioned 1400 years ago, male sperm or Nutfah, is the principal factor for sex determination of the developing child. Modern science discovered it very recently. Sex differentiation primarily becomes programmed during fertilization at the Nutfah stage when the zygote is formed. But it only manifests in the later stages of gestation, which is now confirmed by modern science. The Quran mentions, had he not been a sperm drop emitted, then he was a clinging clot, then Allah developed and perfected his form, producing from it both sexes, male and female. Surah Al-Qiyamah, ayah 37-39. In this verse, the word sawa means to give shape, to form, to fashion, to straighten, to stand, to smooth out, to make equal. And, according to the above verse, the sex of the developing child is formed after the formation of the shape or form of the fetus. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, when 42 nights have passed over the conceptus, Allah sends the angel and gives him shape. Then he creates his sense of hearing, his sense of sight, his skin, his flesh, his bones. Then he says, O Lord, is it male or female? And your Lord decides what he wishes, and the angel records it. Here in this hadith, the word sawara means to shape, to form, to fashion, to sculpt. And according to this hadith, the sex of the developing child is formed after the formation of the shape or form of the fetus and usually forms after 42 days of conception. The above Quranic verses and the above hadith say the sex of the developing child is formed after the formation of the shape or form of the fetus. The hadith also provides two important information. The sex of the developing child forms when 42 nights have passed over the conceptus, and the sex organ develops after the formation of the sense of hearing, the sense of sight, skin, flesh, and bones. Sex is genetically fixed at fertilization, but physically expressed between week 7 to 14 of embryonic development. The first stage, known as genetic sex determination, occurs at the time of fertilization, and the second stage, known as physical sex differentiation. Around week 7, genetic instructions begin influencing development, and sexual differentiation begins week 7 onward. If we look at the timeline, we see genetic sex is determined at the time of fertilization, but at or before week 6, both male and female embryos are in the indifferent stage, and the sex organs of males and females cannot be differentiated. And at week 7, differentiation of sex organs begins. At weeks 12 to 14, physical sex differences become clearly visible on an ultrasound. Here, the words khalaqa fasawa refer to the gradual shaping of the embryo, beautifully capturing the transition from a simple origin to a complex proportioned being, highlighting both the biological differentiation of tissues and organs and the aesthetic balance of the human form. Embryological study says this occurs during weeks 6 to 8. Then Allah made of him the two sexes, male and female. From the above brief discussion, we see by mentioning he created the pairs, two sexes, male and female, from a sperm drop when ejaculated. The Quran indicating genetic sex determination of a developing child occurs during the fertilization process. And by mentioning had he not been a sperm drop emitted, then he was a clinging clot, then Allah developed and perfected his form, producing from it both sexes, male and female. The Quran indicating physical sex differentiation of a developing child occurs after the formation of the shape or form of the fetus. According to the above hadith, the angel asks for Allah's permission to shape the conceptus into a male or a female once ears, eyes, flesh, bones, and skin develop. The conjunction summa or then in the above hadith indicates a delay in the occurrence of this sexual development after the development of ears, eyes, skin, flesh, and bones, and embryological studies are in agreement with this delay in the sequence. Embryological studies have shown that before the 42nd day, it is difficult to distinguish the human embryo's appearance from the appearance of embryos of many other species such as the chicken, fish, or rabbit. After the 42nd day, the human shape begins to be recognizable. In human development, the transition from embryo to fetus occurs 8 weeks after fertilization. Before this, the developing organism is called an embryo, and from this point onward, it is referred to as a fetus and attain the definitive human form as the Quran described. How is it possible that modern scientific information and embryological studies are in full agreement with the statements recorded in the Quran and the Sunnah 14 centuries ago? So, glory be to Allah, the Lord of the universe.